Hey, welcome to Second Chance Youth Ranch TV. On this show, Mark White, who works for the state of Arkansas, he's worked for 4 governors. You don't want to miss this. Mark is a man involved in changing our community, and we'll be right back. Welcome to Second Chance Youth Ranch TV. I'm your host, Perry Black. On this show, we have a dignitary and a very special guest, Mark White. Mark, welcome to Second Chance Youth Ranch TV.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I've kind of known you just for a little while because your daughter goes to Arkansas Christian Academy right here on this very campus.
She does.
And I was just checking with administration to make sure she's still here and what grade she's in. And tell me a little bit about her. What's her name?
Her name is, well, her legal name is Vesta, which is how you all know her. At home, we call her Lainey, but when she started in school, of course, the teachers saw her legal name is Vesta. They'd call her Vesta. She liked to be called that. So she likes having those different names, I think, so she can keep her worlds separate.
Yeah. So how long has she been at ACA, Arkansas Christian Academy?
This is her second year now.
Only her second? I thought it was at least her third.
Well, she started in 8th grade, and that came over in 8th grade. Now, she was in the preschool.
Oh, okay. So way back.
Some years ago.
So how do you know us then? Are you a Benton guy or Little Rock guy or what?
I've been in Bryant for many years. My wife and I have lived here ever since we got married, and we were new of ACA. But what really got us introduced was my brother-in-law and his wife. They placed their daughter at ACA.
And who is that?
That is
who is your brother-in-law?
Greg Holland and Laura Holland.
Okay.
And their daughter, PJ, is a student at ACA. And at first we knew that PJ was coming over to start at ACA.
Yeah.
We mentioned that to Lainey. I'll call her Vesta.
Okay.
I know she likes that for the school. We mentioned that to Vesta, and she said, no, I have no interest in that. But a couple months later, she said, I think I might be interested in ACA. And she came over in 8th grade, is now in 9th grade, and has loved it.
Now, have you had a chance to come over and speak at our chapel?
I have not.
You have not?
Not.
Well, I've got somebody off set that's going to talk to you about that.
Well, Vesta may have something to say about that.
Yeah, I come in and I look at, especially the middle school, and they just look at me like, why are you in here? Are we in trouble or what? So tell me a little bit about you. Where did you grow up? Where did you attend high school?
Sure. Grew up in Arkadelphia. Went to Arkadelphia High School, and then stayed in town, went to Ouachita Baptist University for my college, and then moved up to Fayetteville for a few years, went to law school, and became a lawyer. Looked for work up there. Of course, everyone else wanted to stay up in Northwest Arkansas. That was back when it was really starting to take off. But I ended up finding work back in Little Rock, and of course my family was all here in Central Arkansas. Yeah. So I came back and have been in the Little Rock area ever since.
So you currently, do you live in Saline County or Pulaski County?
Live in Bryant.
In Bryant, in this mega city.
In this mega city.
How long have you lived in Bryant now?
Oh goodness, since 2001.
2001. We moved to Bryant in about 1986. There was a growing metropolitan city of about 4,000 people.
Yes. And
so we've seen it go from what I call Camelot. Reynolds Road was just 2 little low lanes. There wasn't hardly anything there. We started the church, Family Church Bryant, in 1990. About the same time a McDonald's opened, and that was the indication this was going to be a growing community.
I remember when it was just the McDonald's, because my parents moved into Bryant in 1998. Yeah. And that's where I first got connection. We have long family history in the area, but that was our first introduction to Bryant.
You said you're married. What's your anniversary?
July 5th.
Of? When did you get married?
I'm sorry. Of 2003.
2003, so about 21 years?
Yes, sir.
Almost.
Doesn't seem that long.
No. I just celebrated on March the 30th our 51st anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Anybody says they don't believe in God, they just need to be introduced to me because it's a God thing. My wife and I, we went steady for about 2 weeks.
My wife and I, we met each other in January, got engaged in March, and married in July. So
well, we got married in March. So we wouldn't tell our kids that, because we want them to date for, like 8 or 10 years, get to know one another real well.
Absolutely. I've told my daughter that she can start dating and think about marriage when she hits 30 or so. But she's not listening to me.
Let her move out. So tell me a little bit about you. You've served in government in some aspect for, decades really, huh?
I have. I've had long been involved in politics, and especially when I was in college was when Mike Huckabee first ran for statewide office. I worked in several of his campaigns, and so when I got out of law school, came back to Little Rock, I was extraordinarily fortunate that a position opened up in his governor's office, and that's where I first got involved in Arkansas state government, and I just grew to love it. I left for a time, realized how much I missed it and how much I enjoyed working in state government for the people of Arkansas. Came back and have been there ever since in various agencies.
Well, a lot of people, of course, Mike Huckabee, an ordained Baptist preacher and our governor, and I don't know if I could call him a personal friend. We know one another.
Right.
I don't know if he'd claim me or not. But how do you juggle, or do you juggle faith and politics? Because a lot of people in the church say, well, I don't want to hear about politics and I don't want to have anything to do with politics. But doesn't the political arena affect our daily lives daily?
It does affect our daily lives. And I think for government policy, the Bible, from my view, the Bible is not a textbook for how government should work, but it certainly has principles that should underlie how government works. And not only that, as Christians, we are called to care for the least of these and to look out for the fatherless and the widow. And there are opportunities to do that in government. And that's always something we want to keep in mind as that principle. Ultimately, the principle of that, we are children of God. God created every one of us. Every human being has dignity bestowed by God, and we should recognize that and act as if that is the case.
Yeah, and there are some cynics who would say, well, you can't legislate morality, but in the strictest sense, thou shalt not murder. Isn't that a moral issue?
It's all moral. Yeah. It's all about morality. And so the catch is what we don't want is a government that's going to enforce particular religious beliefs on us, because we want freedom of religion. We've seen in years past the dangers that happen when government tries to dictate religion. But even though we want to have that freedom of religion, we also want to have a government policy that reflects the truth.
Yeah, the truth. And the truth is, it has an element of morality in it, doesn't it?
It does.
We're going to take a brief break and we'll come back with Mark White. We're going to talk about how you have served in at least 4 or 5 administrations here in the state of Arkansas, and how a Christian can be involved, especially making lives different for those who need care. We'll be right back.
A mission field around you is filled with young hearts needing a forever family. And at Second Chance Youth Ranch, our team is committed to providing healthy, stable, loving homes and families to hurting children in the Arkansas foster care system and those up for adoption. Please contact us if you feel the tug at your heart to help foster or adopt, and find out the steps you could take to help fulfill a child's lifelong dream. Maybe you can't foster or adopt, but you could help. The need for thousands of children in the system is staggering. But with the help of faithful partners and business alliances, we are meeting those needs right now. Would you help us make a difference? Every gift, regardless of size, impacts a child's life directly and helps provide for a home in the gap right now. Visit the Second Chance Youth Ranch website at 2CYR.org to read more, watch the stories, and to make a contribution for a hurting child's care. Monthly partners are needed, so please contact us right away. And as you partner with this ministry, you are partnering with the Heavenly Father that has promised to be Father to the fatherless. God bless you for helping Second Chance Youth Ranch.
Hey, welcome back to Second Chance Youth Ranch TV. Our special guest on this show is Mark White, who Mark, tell us currently, what do you do in state government?
So currently I'm Executive Director for the Arkansas Teacher Retirement System.
And that's a real small retirement plan, isn't it? Just how many people participate in that, and what's the budget, if you will?
So we are a $20 billion retirement plan.
In Arkansas?
In Arkansas. We have more than 56,000 retirees that we pay benefits to each month based on the contributions they paid in throughout their working career. Every month we pay out about $115 million in retirement benefits to Arkansans, about $1.4 billion over the course of a year. And then we have about 80,000 individuals who are working in schools today who are members, are making their contributions, and will receive retirement benefits when they retire.
Well, I'm going to ask you a loaded question. We have a Christian school here, and I made it clear 22 years ago, we're not in competition with public schools. I always like to clarify for the audience, my daughter's in her 29th year of public school education in Texarkana, Texas, in Pleasant Grove, down at PG, just down there this weekend. There are a lot of wonderful people in the public school education system, aren't there?
There are. My wife is one of them. In fact, and I tell people, one of the reasons that I was so excited about the prospect of coming to the teacher retirement system was my wife is a public school teacher. My mother was a retired teacher. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are both retired teachers. My grandmother was a cafeteria manager for public school.
Wow.
I have a sister-in-law. It's a very long list of family members I have who are involved in public
Where did your wife
education.
teach, and where did your mother teach?
Well, my mother
Mother-in-law?
retired from the Arkadelphia School District.
Okay.
My mother-in-law and father-in-law both retired from the Bryant School District. And my wife is currently at the Harmony Grove District, which is just outside
Yeah,
of
just down the street here. That's amazing. You know, coaches and teachers have a huge impact in the lives of young people. And of course, this show is really about fostering, mentoring, adopting. But isn't education at its very finest, isn't that really about mentoring and encouraging and developing students in character and integrity?
It is, and especially in today's world. And that's one thing that as I talk to teachers, I think back, and I think I could see this in my younger years, but more and more, we expect so much for schools to do what families would have done in years past.
Could you say that again, please? Because I want to make sure I heard that right.
We expect so much for schools to do what families used to do.
Yeah.
And so many of the problems we see in schools today have at their root problems in the family.
Yeah, the American family specifically is really under an onslaught. It's under an attack.
It is.
And a lot of the responsibilities that even biblically are given to moms and dads and the whole family unit have been delegated over the years to the school.
They have been. And it's been, in many cases, an abdication by families of things they should have been doing, have not been doing. But you look at schools, and so many of the biggest problems they deal with, they are dealing with the aftermath of family trauma, of other things that are family issues.
Absentee parenting.
Yes.
The reality is, if they're not disciplined and corrected and guided at home, it sure makes it hard when they get into the public arena with hundreds and hundreds of students.
It does.
So how did you get involved? Back when Governor Huckabee was governor, how did that begin? And you served then with the next governor, which was Governor Beebe.
Well, I worked under Governor Huckabee in his office for 4 years, and then worked in a state agency for a time after that. Then I left. I tried private law practice. Did not like it. It had its good points, but I really missed being in state government.
Yeah.
So when Governor Beebe was governor, I came back into state government, started at the Department of Education as an attorney, then went over to the Department of Human Services as their chief attorney. And then, of course, Governor Hutchinson came into office, and he asked me to serve as deputy director for DHS. And then that continued from there. So
another loaded question. Since you're serving with the teacher's retirement, how is all this working with the EFA, the LEARNS Act, and school choice in our state, which Governor Sanders is a strong proponent of? How does that all work? How do we juggle all that?
Right now, there's not a connection. The law is written that limits the teacher retirement system to only public schools and charter schools. There's not allowance for private schools. I know there is interest among in the legislature of opening up that as an option for private schools that participate in the EFA program. And so I know there's going to be a lot of discussion about that in the coming months.
So school choice, you work directly with Governor Sanders, and you've worked as an attorney for the Department of Ed.
Yes.
Several years ago, I met at the Capitol with one of our students from Second Chance Youth Ranch who was struggling in the public school right here in our community. And because of our smaller student count, like your daughter experiences here, a little bit more direct involvement. Of course, we have chapel every day. This young lady excelled here, and I worked with Senator Hammer, and he worked with some representatives on getting some school choice just for children in care, up to 20, just 20 positions. This young lady excelled here, and we know that some students really function better in a smaller environment.
They do.
And even one where Christ is overtly and on purpose shared, where a little bit more restricted in the public school sector.
Right.
When I went to school at the Westside Junior High here in Little Rock, it was just before it closed. Now it's been turned into condominiums, I think, over by the old Emmanuel Baptist downtown, bound by Little Rock Central High School. Dr. Ball, my homeroom teacher, opened every day with a Bible reading. Now, I wasn't a believer at the time. I was a churchgoer, but not a believer. And I thought, why do we need to read a Bible? How is that relevant, you know? And we did the pledge. Things have really changed the public school system, and a lot of the parental responsibility has been shifted to the school, and the schools really, in some ways, have gotten away from teaching some of the primary things that we used to teach, you know, arithmetic and writing, you know, and all those kind of things. You're serving in our government, and we want to give you an opportunity here in our next segment to come back and talk a little bit about what you're doing now.
Certainly.
And how what you're doing in government's impacting society and trickles down all the way down to touching kids in care and kids in education. So we're going to take a brief break, and we're going to take a video here from Project Zero and see some young people that are looking for a forever family. And I'm asking you to prayerfully consider getting involved in fostering, mentoring, and adopting. We'll be right back.
I'm really looking forward to find a family that I can love and play around with and joke around. My name is Jimmy, and I'm 15 years old. I'm smart, I'm good at video games, and I make a lot of friends at school. I like being outside because you can climb trees or build a fort or look around for insects. We found a turtle yesterday. We found it in the creek when we were swimming. One of the residents at the group home said that he saw something. He thought it was a leaf, but he looked at it and saw a foot, so it was a baby turtle floating in the water. So we picked it up. And then we had to let it go because we couldn't find food for it. I'm smart and good at mowing and gardening.
Have you ever planted any plants before?
Yes, ma'am. Tomatoes and squash.
You said you're in school. What are your favorite subjects there?
My favorite subject is English.
What's something that you would like to do when you grow up?
Be a programmer.
Like a computer programmer? What would you like to program?
Video games.
If you had a superpower, what would you want it to be and why?
To move stuff with my mind.
Why would you like to do that?
Because I don't have to get up.
Oh yeah, I like that. That's a great answer. If you were stuck on a deserted island and you could only bring one thing with you, what would it be?
I will say it will be a Rubik's Cube.
And if you could have one wish, anything that you wanted, what would you want?
A family.
A family.
I'm really looking forward to find a family that I can love and play around with and joke around.
What are some reasons that you would like to be adopted?
So I can know how it feels to have parents.
And what are some things that you would like to do with an adoptive family?
Go hiking or fishing or something.
What does the word family mean to you?
Safe and know somebody's gonna love you.
Yeah. If there was a family that was watching this video and they were thinking about adopting you, what would you want them to know about you?
That I'm a good kid.
Hey, welcome back to Second Chance Youth Ranch TV. In these segments where we show you children waiting and believing for a forever family, I know that touches your heart. It always does mine because I watch this show as well. But we want you to do more than just watch. We want you to get involved and engage. Our special guest on this show is Mark White. Mark, you've served with the Department of Human Services. Yes. You're currently working with the Teachers Retirement. You worked with at least 4 governors. And perhaps this current governor, you'll get to serve with her again in her next term. What do you think about that?
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Was very happy that when she came into office, she asked me to stay on with DHS, and did that, got them through the legislative session, and they've got a great team in place there. But as I told them, when this opportunity came up, this was one I just could not pass on.
For a period of time, you worked with the Department of Human Services, and that's what you were doing when I first met you a couple of years ago. Tell me what you did in that position and how that impacts young people directly.
Sure.
Because I guess in some ways you worked through DCFS in some sort of network?
Well, I had really 3 roles that I had there, and they all have a lot of overlap. Spent some time as the chief attorney for DHS. Also spent some time as the deputy director over the Medicaid program, which, while that doesn't directly oversee child welfare, it's an integral part of child welfare, because that's how those children get their medical checkups and all the health care that they need. And then I spent the last about 5 years as chief of staff for the agency. And in that role, I was touching every part of it, including child welfare, trying to facilitate things, working with our legislators, helping them understand what's going on with our programs, and just be a problem solver for the agency.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite governor that you served with? Since at least 3 of them are out of office, can you even say that?
They're all great governors.
Yeah, they're all great. Now, Governor Beebe was not what we'd call a conservative Republican, but was he a moderate or conservative Democrat?
In his governing, there was, I would say, a moderate. And I say that in that I think of all the governors, he was as focused on saving money as any of them. And so economically, he was certainly very moderate, maybe even conservative, in terms of government operations and budgeting and saving money.
And Governor Huckabee did the same, didn't he?
He did. He did. But the Governor Huckabee had that added element of recognizing a spiritual dimension, of recognizing the issues that affect the family and focusing on those and trying to attack both sides of that equation.
So you've served in our Arkansas government long enough to really see this state, the state of Arkansas, which I think is the best state in the union personally, gone from somewhat very democratic to very conservative, whether it's Republican or not. It's very, very conservative. We're the #1 pro-life state in the United States, which Jerry Cox, who's a good friend, has done a tremendous job over the past 20 plus years helping this state really value and preserve life.
And I really had a front row seat for that, which I'm very happy about. Growing up in Arkadelphia, people that didn't know this, but Clark County was one of the most democratic states most democratic counties in the state. And it was a legacy of the unions that were there for many years, connected with the Reynolds plant and some of the other aluminum plants. And so when I was in high school, I first got involved. I could count on one hand the number of Republicans that were active, and that included me. And so to go from that, where it was me and a handful of retirees in the entire county who were active Republicans, and now I look and see, the Republican Party is such a force to be reckoned with. that's a big difference
Yeah.
over the course of my lifetime.
Well, I grew up in Arkansas, go way back with Governor Faubus, who had numerous re-elections, and I always considered myself a Democrat because, we were a working family, poor farming family, really. And one day I worked, and I went to work, and I worked in a union store called Safeway, and there were two Christians running for the president. One was a born-again guy named Jimmy Carter. The other guy was a born-again guy named Ronald Reagan, and I was reading the different things they stood for, and I went down this list of which I'd always associated with. I said, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me. And I went down the other side, which happened to be Ronald Reagan. I said, that's what I believe, that's what I stand for. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm a Republican. But I don't really consider myself a Republican. I consider myself an independent, but when it comes to what I vote for, I have to stand on the values that I find in Scripture, and the ones that align most closely with mine line up on that conservative Republican side, and I've seen the whole state that has shifted the same way.
Right.
So there's a lot going on in our world. How has your work in government, how has it some way affected those children in foster care, like Second Chance Youth Ranch, the Baptist Home, Compact Center, and so forth?
Sure. I mean, that's been a consistent thread in my work experiences. There's always been a either indirect or direct connection with the welfare of children. Of course, in the time at DHS, that was an issue we worked with each and every day, especially around the pandemic and when our child welfare workforce was undergoing such challenges in trying to keep workers and keep them, enable them to do their jobs. There's so many cases where we saw where you'd have just a handful of people trying to do an entire county because we couldn't find the workers to come in and do the work. And of course, we had so many people who were so dedicated to that, who came in, put in those extra hours, that extra effort to make sure these children were cared for. And so that certainly was the most direct impact. Even now with the teacher retirement system, I know that our retirement benefit is a key reason why teachers come in and stay in the classroom. And schools, I don't know about if private schools are having the same issues, but I know public schools are having a harder and harder time finding people who are willing to come in and make that commitment to serve these kids. And so we want to do everything in our power to be an incentive there to help people come in, because whatever school these children are in, they need positive adult influences in their life.
Yeah. In our society today, we need adults involved in education, in government, in fostering, mentoring, and adopting. We'd love to hear from you right here at Second Chance Youth Ranch TV. I know many of you watch this show every week, but it's not enough just to watch. You've got to pray for us, pray for our state, those who serve in government, and you've got to stay involved and engaged. And we'd love to hear from you right here at Second Chance Youth Ranch TV or at 2CYR.org. We look forward to seeing you again next week right here at Second Chance Youth Ranch TV. Bye-bye.